Okay, let's get right into it. Have you ever looked in the mirror and just wondered how much of this, how I'm aging, is actually up to me? Is it all just a genetic lottery that was decided the day I was born? Or can the things we do every single day actually change the story? It's that classic age old question, right? Nature versus nurture. But we're applying it to aging itself. Are we just playing out a script that was written in our DNA? Or are we actually the ones holding the pen? For the longest time, the real answer was kind of murky, but now some incredible new research is making things surprisingly clear. So, check this out. This comes from a huge study. We're talking nearly 500,000 people in the UK Biobank. When they dug into what really contributes to dying early, they found that our genetics, yeah, they accounted for less than 2% of the difference between people. But our lifestyle and our environment, a whopping 17%. I mean, that is a night and day difference. It's telling us that the power to shape how we age is way more in our hands than most of us ever thought. So, to really get a handle on how this works, we first have to understand the two big ideas that scientists have had about why we age in the first place. So, in one corner, you've got the programmed theories. The idea here is that aging is basically on purpose. It's built into our DNA, kind of like a biological clock that's set to run down. And in the other corner, you have the damage or error theories. These say, nope, it's not programmed at all. It's just the result of life. It's the wear and tear, the constant little hits our bodies take from the environment over a lifetime. The modern thinking, though, is that it's actually a mix of both. But to see how they fit together, we have to zoom in. I mean, way, way in. Past what you see in the mirror, deep down to the cellular level, where the real story of aging unfolds. And what scientists have found down there are several key breakdowns, fundamental failures that really drive the whole aging process. These aren't just signs of getting older. In a very real way, they are the aging process, just on a microscopic scale. They're the root of it all. So the first and maybe most important one is genomic instability. Now, I know this diagram looks pretty complex, but the core idea is actually simple. Just think of it like a constant battle inside your cells. On one side, you have damage coming in from things like sunlight, pollution, you name it. On the other side, you've got your body's amazing DNA repair crew. When we're young, it's a fair fight. But as we get older, the damage starts to get the upper hand, and that leads to all kinds of problems. All right, next up, we have something that sounds like it's straight out of a horror movie: cellular senescence. We're talking about zombie cells. See, when a cell gets too damaged, it's supposed to do the honorable thing and just self-destruct. But sometimes it doesn't. It goes into this weird zombie state where it stops working, but it refuses to die. And worse, it just hangs around spewing out all these toxic, inflammatory signals that hurt all the healthy cells around it. Okay, now imagine every one of your cells has this super efficient quality control and recycling team. That's basically proteostasis. Its job is to make sure proteins are built correctly and to take out the trash, all the broken, misfolded ones. But as we age, that system starts to get sluggish. Bad proteins start to pile up, just gumming up the works inside the cell. This is a huge deal in diseases like Alzheimer's. And believe me, the list goes on. It's like a domino effect. The little protective caps on our chromosomes, our telomeres, they get shorter and shorter. The power plants in our cells, the mitochondria, they start to fail. Our internal repair crews, our stem cells, they just get worn out. It's this whole cascade of failures that are all interconnected. Okay, so if those are all the problems, the what is going wrong, the next big question is why, right? What's in charge here? Well, it turns out our cells have these amazing master control systems. You can think of them like longevity switches. These pathways are like the command and control centers. They're constantly listening to the signals from your life, what you're eating, how much you're moving, when you sleep. And based on what they hear, they flip switches that can either speed up or slow down all those hallmarks of aging we just talked about. One of the main players is called mTOR. It's the cell's growth sensor. So when you eat a big steak, for example, your amino acid levels shoot up and mTOR gets switched on. It's basically shouting to the cell, hey, the food's here, times are good, let's grow, let's build. But here's the dilemma, and it's a big one. When mTOR is always on, the cell is just focused on one thing: grow, grow, grow. It puts off all the maintenance and repair jobs. But when mTOR is turned off, like when you're fasting, the cell totally shifts its priorities. It's like, okay, no growth right now, let's clean house. It turns on that cellular cleanup crew, a process called autophagy, and starts recycling old parts. So you see the trade-off, right? Growth versus maintenance. Now, on the flip side of that coin, you've got these sirtuins, and these guys are awesome. They're often called the guardians of the genome. They actually get turned on by a little bit of good stress, like from exercise or cutting back on calories. Their job is to beef up DNA repair, cool down inflammation, and just generally protect the cell when things get tough. They basically tell the cell to hunker down and focus on survival. So now we've got all the pieces, right? We have the cellular problems, the hallmarks, and we have the master switches that control them. So let's zoom back out and connect all this deep science to our actual everyday lives. Remember that huge study from the beginning? It pinpointed the things that have the biggest impact on how we age. And here's the key. Look at this list. Smoking, no surprise, was a big one, but so were things like how active we are and what we eat. These are almost all things that we can actually do something about. And here's something from the research that is just mind-blowing. The clock doesn't just start ticking when we hit middle age. Things that happen super early in life, even things like what your mom was exposed to when she was pregnant with you, can have a real measurable effect on how you age decades and decades later. It just goes to show you, aging is truly a lifelong process. And this is how it all comes together. This is the mechanism. Lifestyle choices, things like going for a run or skipping a meal, create a little bit of good stress on your cells. That stress is the signal that literally flips on those longevity switches, like the sirtuins, and dials down the growth ones, like mTOR. And once they're activated, those pathways get to work fighting back against the hallmarks of aging. And you don't just have to take my word for it. Dr. Wael Harb, commenting on this research, basically said the evidence is undeniable. The choices we make every day play a huge role, very often a bigger role than the genetic hand we were dealt. We're not just passengers watching our bodies age, we're in the driver's seat. All of this new understanding is leading to a massive shift, a whole new way of thinking about what it means to get older. And that shift is right here. The goal isn't just about adding more years to your life anymore. It's about adding more life to your years. It's about increasing what scientists call our health span. That's the number of years we live in good health, feeling vibrant and capable, free from disease. Which really brings us to one last big idea to leave you with. If aging isn't this fixed, inevitable decline, if it's actually a biological process that we can actively shape and influence, then what does it really mean to grow old today? The science is telling us it might be something completely different than we ever thought was possible.